Hey, welcome back, part two of this tutorial. What we're going to do today is we're going to edit Trump's head. We've edited the Queen already. We're going to create a clipping mask for Trump. This time we're going to invert the clipping mask. Now remember we only want Trump's head. So I'm going to follow the same process as yesterday. I've just turned my Trump layer on and my Queen layer off, and I need to now select Trump because currently Queen is selected. So I'm selecting Trump. It's turning light blue, which is good. I'm going to use my zoom tool, my magnifying glass, and just zoom in till I can see Trump's head, till it gets like a little bit pixely. Alright, here we are. This is horrifying. Okay, so I'm going to create a new path now. So I need to click on my Paths tab, which is next to Layers. And I'm going to go to the menu and create a new path. And I'm going to call this path Trump. Now last time we created a path, I told you to start where the background meets the edge of the image. This time we're actually cutting the head out. So there is no point where the edge of the image meets anything that we're cutting. So we're just going to start at a logical point. So for me, I'm just going to start at the bottom of the neck, just because it's a point that will be easy enough to grab. If you're putting a head onto someone's shoulders, can I encourage you just to include some of their neck? We can paint that neck out afterwards, but it will just blend a little bit more nicely potentially. So I don't care if you cut fairly roughly across their neck, but we probably do need to include some neck there. So I'm going to click on the pen tool down here, about 5 up from the bottom, and I'm going to start with my first click at the bottom. And I'm just going to work my way around this head, and I'm not going to pay too much attention. Like, I'm not going to make it absolutely perfect because I can come back and edit it once I've finished making my path. I'm going to include the hair. It's going to be a little bit difficult for some of you, especially if the person who you're clipping's got fuzzy or curly hair. If they're wearing a hat, that's probably very easy for you because it's like a nice sharp edge. But I'm going to kind of just cut out the main clumps of the hair. If there's a few flyaway hairs, I'm not going to include them in my selection. So I'm going to ignore the flyaway hair. The hair might look a little bit funny on our final design, especially given that we've got it on a white background. It might look like it's kind of heavily kind of chopped out. So we're going to potentially soften it a little bit once we've created our mask, just by using the paintbrush tool on our mask. When I get to a piece like this, where the hair kind of fades out, I'm going to follow like one or two of the strands and then create a sharp point by just clicking at the end, not actually clicking and dragging, and then dragging back, and it kind of will create some little sharp edge to my hair. Honestly, hair is probably one of the hardest things to cut out in Photoshop. You'll see I'm intentionally ignoring some bits of hair there as well. Just finishing off with the edge of the mullet. And now remember, to finish off your mask, you need to hover over that last point until you see that little circle appear. It's very hard to see it here because it's got a dark background, but as I move my pointer around, I can see that circle come on and off. Make sure it's on before you click your final click. And now I've made my Trump mask. So now that we've got our path here, the same as last time, I'm just going to make a selection on that path, but I'm going to zoom out first. So I'm going to right click on my Trump path and click make selection, and I'm going to feather this again by just 1 pixel. Cool. And now I'm going to go back to my layers. Make sure that Trump is selected. It's really crucial that you make sure that the layer that you're working on is selected. And then I'm going to hit mask, and it will cut out all the background and just leave the head there. Cool. Now I told you this was going to look funny. We can deal with this in a minute. We can deal with the funny looking edges to this hair in a minute. But first, I'm going to turn my queen back on, and I'm going to drag Trump's head so it sits where I want it to sit, on top of my queen body. And I think that looks about right. Maybe a little bit lower. If I want to, I can maybe like tilt the head a little bit. Maybe like that. Cool, so now I've got Trump's head on Queen's body. If I needed to adjust things slightly, I can. But what I have here is like a really ugly looking edge. So folks, if you want to just glance at the board, if you're in my classroom right now, see I've got this really ugly edge underneath here. Like, it doesn't blend very nicely into the Queen's neck at all. It's kind of like chops off. We're going to deal with that using the layer mask again. So I'm going to zoom into that area. And now Trump's on top. And so I need to select Trump's layer mask. So not only do I need to select this Trump layer, I need to ensure that these little kind of white corners are around the layer mask itself. So not around the image. So just here, you want these 4 little white corners to be on. So with my layer mask selected, I'm going to choose my paintbrush tool, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down, my brush tool. I'm going to make sure that my brush is black. I'm going to change the size of it to suit my image. So reduce the size. I want my hardness to be like 0% hard. And I'm going to change my opacity down to somewhere just below 50. Cool. So with those options selected, I can start to paint on that hard edge and start to blend one neck into the other. Make that a little bit more smooth. You'll notice that I have to click multiple times as I'm going across this neck to kind of blend these things in. Similarly, I can go around the edge of my image now, and I can start to paint away some of the edges of that hair because those are kind of quite black. So I'm going to zoom right in, choose my paintbrush, make sure I'm on my layer, probably reduce the size a little bit, and start to paint out some of these black edges. So I've tidied up now and I've zoomed out, and all I want to do is to adjust the skin tone of Trump here because it doesn't quite match the Queen. And so I'm going to use an adjustment layer to do that. So selecting Trump, I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and I'm going to look at the hue and saturation again. And remember, I am going to use the previous layer to create a clipping mask, so you need to click this checkbox. Cool. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so the colors are a little bit more clear to me. Maybe not quite that clear. I'm going to reduce the saturation. A little bit. Maybe decrease the lightness. And maybe tilt it slightly more towards yellow, I think, which is to the right. And increase that saturation slightly. This is all a matter of just kind of playing to see what you get. Cool. So that's looking good. I'm going to go back to my mask now and fix up that chin because it looks a bit ugly using the paintbrush tool. And I think that my head might be slightly too large. So I'm going to reduce the size of my head a little bit as well. So to reduce the size of my head, just click on my original image. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to just hold down Shift and resize. Once more. That's looking a little bit tidier. Okay, I'll zoom in again just to check it's all looking nice. Adjust that layer mask slightly with a paintbrush. And that's pretty much me. Cool. So that is how to use clipping your pen tool to make paths, to make masks on images, to edit images non-destructively.